A D N.
It's HeadphonesNeil!
What's up, guys? Welcome back to HeadphonesNeil Reviews. I'm your host, as always, HeadphonesNeil, bringing you a full set of reviews for this week, mostly Star Wars related. Have a quick update as far as an existing TV show that I'm still working on, and also an update on the next gameplay as we rapidly approach the conclusion for my gameplay of Knights of the Old Republic. So, jumping right into it, I'm still slowly getting my way through Battlestar Galactica 1978. Overall, it's okay. I mean, a lot of the elements are basically of its time as far as the visuals and acting and all of that stuff. So I'm kind of just watching it as I have time. I'm still trying to get through it, but it is kind of hard just because of how everything is. But it's kind of like an introduction that's reminiscent of the Twilight Zone, set designs that are reminiscent of Star Trek, and then acting that's kind of along the levels of like Miami Vice. So I don't know, and this is all in retrospect because I'm sure at the time it didn't feel like that, but Adama's acting in this show is kind of slowly getting into how we kind of see Adama in the 2004 version of the show. So I'm kind of holding hope that it does get better, but in general, it is still of its time, especially with Baltar, the Cylon mastermind guy, and all of that stuff. So it's kind of a slow trudge through the show, but I'm still trying to make my way through it, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm still working on that, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Now, as far as all the Star Wars stuff goes, I did have a chance to finish watching Andor Season 1, and overall, it all still holds up as far as starting off with, in the beginning section of the show, with Luthen and Cassian talk about how Cassian stole the equipment, and like, well, it's easy to steal from the Empire. They're so full of themselves that you just have to act like one of them and you can get in and cater to their egos. And then like Luthen and Saw's speech about principles and what they have to give up and what they shouldn't give up or how they want to approach it. Luthen's speech later about what he's doing or what his part in all of it and what he gives up. And then Minerva, I'm not looking it up, but yeah, the Cassian's mom's speech about fighting the Empire and that everyone's sleeping and all that, the escape from the Empire facility that was the prison facility and all that. So all in all, it all came together as a very good show and a season, so I can't wait to see what they do in season 2. Especially with an article I just saw that they're saying that after you watch Andor Season 2, make sure you watch or rewatch Rogue One, which in this case I already did that now just to get the end perspective of where they're going to plan to end up. So it's going to be connecting the dots of Andor Season 1 and Rogue One via Season 2, which brings me to Rogue One. I did end up rewatching that, and granted, my initial skepticism about Rogue One was we had elements of the Empire. I kind of did want more elements as far as the background of Krennic and Galen or so and all of that stuff. More on board the Death Star of what's going on there, before it's built, not necessarily seeing all the empty areas, but just what's going on in the construction of it and all of that stuff. But it wasn't now, but I'm kind of coming around to it where it wasn't terrible and it's less of a thing for me. It's like a 1% issue. And even before, for me, it was maybe like a 10% thing. It's like, yeah, all of this story is great, but I do want more Empire, more back and forth. But we do have a lot of that, especially with the back and forth with Krennic and Tarkin, calling Vader, or Tarkin summoning Vader, Vader and Krennic's little speech about choking on his aspirations. So just all in all, for me, it's a good Star Wars story. It's the better of the two between Rogue One and Solo, just because in Solo I still have a hang up of not having Jabba the Hutt in the film. Just, the guy thing that Solo is known for, and then the whole, to me, it was a side. And while I digress, the whole thing with the Crimson Dawn was a side distraction away from Jabba the Hutt. I mean, I wouldn't have minded having it if the whole stealing of the coaxium was under the story of stealing it for Jabba, and Crimson Dawn and the Marauders were stealing it for themselves and they were extra elements, then it would have worked perfectly. But that's neither here nor there. For Rogue One, very good film, very good visuals, seeing Scarab base as an Empire facility. And I mean, for that, as far as the background stuff, that works very well. So we'll see how Andor Season 2 expands on all of that from Season 1 and Rogue One and how it connects the dots. So I'm looking forward to Andor Season 2. But on that related note, all of this just made me want to rewatch the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, because I had very good memories of that. And as far as just seeing stuff from the Empire, more of on the Empire's point of view, the Kenobi series does that very well, as far as the Inquisitors, the third sister wanting to go after Anakin, knowing who he is, killing the younglings, but under the guise of doing it within the Inquisitor program. So all of that, like, her story arc definitely holds up. Vader having all the power in the world, like, super strong. And I got to thinking about the timeline that must be before Andor, just because of all the stuff that happens. It's more on the height of the Empire, and they're still focused on hunting all the Jedi. So with that, and we don't have too much about the rebellion. We do have the path and all that, and like disparate things going on. So there's that. But Vader working with the third sister to find Kenobi, he's the only focus and nothing else matters. Obi-Wan, deciding what he should do, shouldn't do, protecting Anakin's children and all of that. But as far as other elements, Leia's acting, was the actress who played Leia still holds up. Especially like we're sold when she's talking to Obi-Wan about she's been shot at, she's being hunted by the Inquisiting people and all of that. So she's very mature, but she's still a child. And then when Obi-Wan gives her the holster, and he acknowledges that she's only 10 years old, but she always won't be. So that whole relationship between them holds up, and that definitely provides more context to like when Bail Organa sends her to get Obi-Wan, why he answers a call, and why she holds Obi-Wan in such high esteem and all of that. And then also, like, the F season rounds out very well with the conversation that Obi-Wan and Leia are having about her parents. Throughout the show, he's trying to not tell her too much. It pains him to do that. He even kind of plays it off when they're on that when they're talking to the stormtroopers about how much she reminds her, about how much Leia reminds him of Padme. And then when at the end of the series, when he's telling her that she has the determination, kindness, forwardness of her mother, but then also the same qualities of Anakin, that he sees all of their qualities built up in her. So that's all he can tell her. It gives him, he can't tell her much, but he can tell her that much, that she has both of their qualities in her. So all of that stuff it plays very well. So the two series, notably Andor and Obi-Wan, were done very, very well. They've expanded the universe during that time frame. I mean, I know there's people who say, we always get show stuff during that time frame, but this expands on that well, along with The Mandalorian as well. So with that being said, now that that's all out of the way, I'll continue watching Battlestar Galactica and whatever else other stuff comes up as well. But also, as far as the Knights of the Old Republic gameplay goes, we're basically, so now that with the Yavin Station, we've met the Trandoshan, so we have some more products, so that's gonna end up, that'll be completed very soon, but now we also but also Tatooine and Kashyyyk are done, so we're pretty much done with the Zalbar story arc and the Bastila and mission story arc, so we don't have to worry about them. With Manon, it's more Jolie Bindo focused, kind of, with the Sunry trial, but that's really all you need him for. So you can kind of skip that trial. It doesn't really affect much anyways if you don't deal with Jolie too much. And the main thing for me for Manon is, especially if you're on the dark side, is the Gena Horaden quest, because you get some really good equipment as far as blasters and blades and equipment and stuff like that, and a lot of dark side points. So with that, you really only want to play it if you want the equipment and the dark side points. If you're playing light side, just know that you're going to get a lot. When you want the equipment, just know that the dark side points go along with it. So if you play the level or play those quests early enough, then you can offset it with a bunch of light side points. But if you play it, for me, like later in the game, like I do, then it's going to be hard to offset those light side points. You're going to have to do a lot of light side things, so it gets kind of finicky later in the game, which is why I say that if you don't mind missing the equipment and you don't want the dark side points, then you can skip it entirely. It doesn't have any effect on the overall story of the game, so it's kind of one of those things that if you, I guess I'm beating around the bush, that if you're playing the dark side, then definitely play it so you keep the points and you get the equipment. Other than that, it's a pretty much skippable thing if you don't want either one or either or. But then as far as the rest of Manon goes, you'll have the Sith base and the star map, and you'll pretty much be done. If you're playing the dark side, my final tip actually for Manon also is, if you're playing the dark side, then make sure you stock up on the repair parts from the vendor that's on the main causeway between the Ebon Hawk or the docking port and the city before you go to the star map, because if you're playing the dark side, then the Selkath are going to catch you in your lie that you're high about what happened, or it's basically at the end of it you're going to get kicked out of Manon, never to return, and you're not going to have an easy place to stock up on parts, mostly because if you don't have a lot of repair and computer and all of that built up as far as points on your character, or you don't use T3M4 too much and he doesn't join you on the unknown world, or on, I don't think you need it too much on Korriban, but on the unknown world there's a few opportunities for computer systems and droids and stuff like that, and also on the Starforge as far as building Revan's robes, then you'll need a lot of those parts, and just having them built up is very useful. So I recommend before going to the star map, especially if you haven't visited Manon before, stock up on those parts from those vendors. He's one of those few places that are easy to get to and stock up on them. So even if you're playing the game brand new, it might be one of those things where you visit Manon just for that specifically, like especially after you visit Yavin Station for the first time and you got all these credits, then you can buy all the parts in the world that you need, so that way you are able to use it for the rest of the game. So go to Manon, buy those parts, and then go back to Tatooine and Kashyyyk and all the other places, and you can repair and use repair stuff, use computers, and all that stuff to your heart's content. But regardless, once you finish Manon, so as soon as we finish Manon, there's the Leviathan, the final part of Yavin Station with the Trandoshans to get the lightsaber crystals, Korriban as far as rounding that stuff out, and then the rest of the game with the Unknown World and the Starforge. So by next week's episode, we should be all done with the game as far as the gameplay. So I'll have a final review this time around, or next time around, as far as the gameplay for this gameplay. But overall, this Order of Planets is the most straightforward way to get through everything, relatively easy, and essentially everything else is, or the only thing left beyond that is setting up your own character, deciding which like armor and stats and how you want to build up your particular character and take it from there. So that's all there really is for that. So once we're done with Knights of the Old Republic, I actually was able to have enough credits, and it's going to be in the budget to play GTA San Andreas, the definitive edition. So the next gameplay starting right after Knights of the Old Republic is GTA San Andreas, the definitive edition, which essentially fixes a bunch of bugs and improves a lot of the visual elements. So it doesn't quite look like it was made in 2003. It kind of smooths it out and makes it maybe 2010 or so. For that, just look out for that. The playlist is already created, and the initial part is just going to be getting back into building, just getting reused to the controls, using the Razer Kishi again, and all of that stuff. And, checking out the visuals and all that stuff, but kind of getting back into the game and getting used to the controls and all of that stuff. So I am starting from the beginning, so it is going to be a repeat of all the stuff I did before for Los Santos and San Fierro and all that stuff. But this time around, I do plan to play the game in its entirety. So it might seem a little bit odd and boring, and some of the stuff I'm going to try not to rush through any of the missions that I know how they go and all that. But in general, it's going to be one of those things where because I know how certain things can turn out, and I try to remember my experience from the prior time, I'll try and work my way through those so it's not as bad or weird from last time, and it goes a little bit more smoothly. So with that being said, that's all there is for this particular episode. So look out for those updates for next week. So next week is going to at least be some Battlestar Galactica updates, the review for the finale for Knights of the Old Republic, and we'll see whatever else comes up that I have a chance to watch and play or do or whatever, and all of that good stuff. But thanks for tuning into this particular episode, and until next time.